We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Hayam and Beis in Meseches Eruvin. This is Eruvin Daf 55b. The Gemara here is asking why Rav Huna makes the same statement twice. And the Gemara here says, Nosnin karfef lo'ir divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir's opinion is that when you measure the tchum of a city, you have to give an area of a karfef, some empty space around the city, which counts as part of the city. And then from there, you measure the tchum of the city. Rashi here says, Nosnin karfef lo'ir, kashabo limdod hatchumin. When you want to measure the tchum, meiniach lo'ir avir shel shivim ama v'shirayim, shu ki'ir levad hatchum. What you say is that in an area of about 70 amos, a little more than 70 amos of open space outside of the city, that should be considered as part of the city, not even part of the measuring of the tchum. That's Rabbi Meir's opinion. The Chachamim say, Lo amru karfef ela bein shtei ayoros, that we only have the halachas of karfef between two cities. And Rashi here explains, ela beis ayoros lechabron al yedei karfef shebeinei. In other words, according to the Chachamim, if you have two cities, you want to know are they one city or two cities, so then you have a karfef, that's the measurement that's used. If there's less than a karfef of space between the two cities, you can connect the two, it's really all one city. Already, if it's more than a karfef, then it's going to be two separate cities. The Itmar and it was said on this statement of the Chachamim, Rav Huna Amar, that Rav Huna says karfef lazu v'karfef lazu. When it says one karfef, it doesn't really mean one karfef. It means one karfef for each city. So again, if you have two separate cities and you have a space of less than two karfefs between them, that's one karfef for each city, then you can merge them together. Otherwise not. That's the same thing Rav Huna just said in the previous Amud. Rav Huna said if you have a city and there's a breach in the city and now there's an open space, if it's more than two karfefs, it's two separate cities. Less than two karfefs, it's all merged together. So the Gemara is asking, why is Rav Huna saying the same thing twice? Chia Barav disagrees with Rav Huna, and he says, Ein nosen ela karfef echad l'shneim. You just give one karfef for both of them. That's going to be explained later on in the Gemara Daf Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. In any case, so the Gemara is asking, why does Rav Huna make the same statement twice, that it's an area of more than two karfefs that creates a separation into two separate cities? So the Gemara says, Sricha, no, it is needed. Both statements are needed. Diyash minan hach, if we only had it over here, Mishum dahavalei tzad heter mei kara. Over here, there was a tzad heter mei kara. Rashi over here explains, in the first case, where we're talking about where it's one city and then there's a breach in the middle of the city, all the walls come down in the middle. Hasam kamer Rav Huna karfef lazu v'lazu lechabron. There, Rav Huna says this measurement to reattach into one city. Mishum dahavilu tzad heter mei kara shayu kvar irachas. Here, they were originally one city, and now you're asking, we're going to take it out of being the status of one city into two cities. That's a tzad heter mei kara. So here, there's more reason to be lenient in this case. Aval Hasam, but over there, Emalo, maybe we wouldn't say that. Maybe we would not say that this amount of space allows us to merge together two cities. V'yashmin and Hasam, and if we only had it over there, Mishum de Dechikat Hashmishtayu. There, it's difficult to use that kind of that space, that area. Rashi here says the Dechikat Hashmishtayu. It's crowded. Beizayaros Mamish. If you really had two actual cities, Dechikat Hashmishtayu bechad karfef. If you only had, let's say, one karfef of space between them, it would be very crowded, very difficult to use that space. Hilkach karfef michshav l'chol chad ki'ir gufa. That's why each one gets a karfef. V'kevon d'tzarech lav have ki'ir ki mechabri beis ha-karfifos kilo hayaros mechubaros dami. That's where you're going to say that you can put them together, that you need two. Aval hacha, but over here, delo dechikat hashmishtayu, where it's not crowded at all, it was all one city the whole time. Eimalo, I would say it's not true. Tzricha, that's why you need both. And Rashi says, aval hacha, but over here Rashi says, the ir achasi, where it's all was one city in the first place. Umeikara ki mechabri kodem shenifert sahavi kula maleya. Before there was any breach in the middle of the city, everything was full. There was plenty of room for everyone. So Belav Hayaver, you didn't even need this extra space, this breach. There was plenty of room when it was all full. So Hashtanami lo Nesef Hayavir Latashmishan. So now we shouldn't say that if you have this airspace between them and it's less than, let's say, two karfifos, now we're going to say that that airspace should merge them together. That's all extra space. It's empty. It's not being used. It should not be able to merge them. Kamash Malan, no, even in this case. So in other words, each one has a reason why you would think maybe we should not merge the two together. On the one hand, the case where it was originally one city, that's a little bit of a more of a reason to merge it together because it was one before, and now the question is, should we break it apart into two? On the other hand, the case of one city is a little more of a reason not to merge it together because that airspace is not going to be used at all. That empty space is not going to be used at all because there's plenty of room in the city. It was all one city. It used to be full. Now you have a bunch of empty space in the middle. So it's basically not really part of the city. It's just empty, not being used. Why should that merge it together? So that's why he needs to make the statement in both situations. So then the Gemara says, "V'kama have ben yeser lekeshes." Okay, let's say you have a situation of a city that's shaped like a bow, as we said before. So he said you can draw an imaginary line from a house at one edge of the bow to the other, and you can measure from there. So let's say there's a house at the top of the arc. And that house does not have to measure its tchum from the house itself. It can go all the way to the area between the two edges of this bow, and that's really the edge of the city. They can measure the 2,000 amos from there. But how far are they allowed to walk in that empty space? That empty space in the middle of the bow, how far are they allowed to go? Is it unlimited? So Rabba bar Rav Huna, Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna says, Alpayim Amma. They only get 2,000 amos. If it's more than 2,000 amos from that house that's at the top of the arch, to go to the imaginary line that we drew between the two edges, if it's more than 2,000 amos, you don't allow it. But Rava Braid de Rabba bar Rav Huna Amar Afilu Yeser Me Alpayim Amma. Rava, the son of Rabba bar Rav Huna, says, no, it could even be more than 2,000 amos. We allow any amount. And Amar Abaya says, Kivase de Rava Braid de Rabba bar Rav Huna Mistaber. It makes sense, like Rava, the son of Rabba bar Rav Huna, the boy Hadir Asi Derech Batim. Because the fact of the matter is, you could have went that far anyway, as long as you would walk through the area where there are houses. So therefore, why should we not allow you to do it in a situation where where there's an imaginary line? We'll take a look at the diagram here just to make this a little bit more clear. So the case again was like this: you have a bunch of houses here that are in this bow shape. So we're asking, generally speaking, if this is less than 4,000 amos, you're allowed to draw an imaginary line. A guy who lives over here can walk all the way to the imaginary line, and then he measures 2,000 amos from the line. He doesn't need to measure the 2,000 amos from his house. That's what the Gemara had said. So now the Gemara says that we're even going to allow this, according to the lenient opinion, according to Rava, we're even going to allow this if this house over here is more than 2,000 amos from this imaginary line. And why is that logical? Abai says that's logical because you can get to this line by traveling this way. And everyone would agree that's fine. If the guy would travel this way, Rashi says it's havlas tchumin. All the tchums are absorbed, connected one to the other. So you could travel all along this line, get to here, and then go another 2,000 amos. So Abaya says once you can do that, you might as well be allowed to do this. It doesn't matter how much of a distance there is from the top of this arch until this imaginary line that we drew. So that's the lenient opinion again, and that is what Rava says, and that's what Abai says is the logical opinion. Gemara now continues at the two dots. My Gedudios. So Gedudios, we said you have houses that are somewhat destroyed at the edge of the city, and you measure the tchum from that point. Amar Rav Yehuda says Shalosh mechitzos she'ein alein tikra. It refers to a structure that has three walls with no roof. So the Gemara says Ibaylu. They ask the following question: Shtei mechitzos v'yesh alein tikra ma. What if a structure would have two walls, but it would have a roof? So you still got your three solid parts of the structure. Just here you've got two walls and a roof instead of three walls and no roof. Gemara says Tashma, come in here. Elo shemes abrin ima. The following structures are considered to be part of the city, and again you measure the city as if these are a part of the city. These form the border of the city. Nefesh sheyesh ba arba amos al arba amos. Let's say you have a tomb, an area that's built for a dead body by a grave site. If it's 4 amos by 4 amos, v'hagesher. If you have a bridge, v'hakever sheyesh ba in beis dira. Or if you have again a grave site, and they have these areas have a beis dira. They have someone living there. Or you have a shul with somebody living there, a lechazan for the person who's the chazan of the shul, or if you have a temple, you have a church, an idol worship area, which also has someone living there, lakomrim for the priests to work there, va'orvos, you have an area that's for horses, va'otzaros shabasados, you have an area of warehouses, storehouses in the field, v'yesh ben beis dira, and again someone's living there, va'haborganin shabasocha, and again you have people watching over a field. Those are also people that are living in that area. V'habayis shabayam. Let's say you have a house that's in the middle of the sea. There's, let's say, an island that's within 70 amos of the city. You have a house there. Harei elu misabernima. All of these are included within the borders of the city. V'elu shein misabernima, and the Brisa continues, the following situations are not considered to be part of the city. Nefesh shenifritza mishtei rechosa elach ve'elach. Let's say you have this tombstone, this construction by the gravesite that's broken down. 2 of the walls are broken. V'hagesher v'hakever shein la in beis dira. You have a bridge, you have a gravesite without someone living there. Ubeis haknesa shein la beis dira lechazan. You have a shul without an area for the chazan to live. Ubeis avodas kochav shein la beis dira lakomrim. You have a house of idol worship where there is no area for the priest to live. Va'orvos va'otzor Again, these are the areas for the horses, storehouses for the field. They don't have anyone living there. You have various kinds of caves, v'geder and a fence, v'shovach. You have a dovecote that is contained in that area. V'habayis shebesfina, or let's say you have a ship nearby the city, and there's a house on that ship. Ein elu misabranim. None of these count within the borders, count to extend the borders of the city. So the Gemara now brings its proof. Here we have this tombstone area, this area that's built by a tomb, and not a tombstone, but it's a constructed area. It's like a tomb that has two walls that are up and two walls that are down. My lav, the ikatikra, does it not have a roof, and this shows that if you have two walls and you have a roof, that's not good. Apparently it's no good. So the Gemara says, lo, no, deleka tikra. In this case, there's no roof. So if it had a roof, maybe it would be okay, but in this case, there's no roof. That's why it's not good. What are you using this house that's on this island? What is that house used for? Amar Papa says, this was a house that they used to clear off any of the vessels that were in a ship. They would store it in this area. So then the Gemara says a cave that doesn't count in the tchum, in the border of the city. But Rav Yechia said, he said that it's not true. He said that a cave actually is counted. Amar Abai says, Kashiyesh binyan alpia. When do we say it's counted? If you have built an attachment to the cave. So now you've put a building, you put some kind of a house, some kind of a structure that's attached to the cave, that's already going to count. Gemara says, well, if that's the case, you might as well just count the binyan itself. Why are we looking at the cave? Gemara says, no, because the case was, on its own, this binyan was not large enough. Rashi over here says, the binyan itself was not fit for anyone to live there. It could go in shein bo dalet al dalet. It wasn't 4x4. So the cave helps to make it the right size. That's the situation over here. That's why you need the cave. Amar Ravuna says, Yoshvei Tzrifin, if you have people who live in huts, ein modedin lohen, elam pesach batein, they are not considered to be part of the city. They have to measure the 2,000 amos from their houses. Mesev Rav Chisda asks, V'yachanu ala yardin mibeis hayeshimos. It's talking about the encampment they had near the Yarden when they were in the Midbar. V'yamar Rabba bar Chana, and Rabba bar Chana says, Ledidi chazi li'ahu asri, says, I saw this area where Klal Yisrael was camping in the Midbar. They have a tlasa parsi al tlasa parsi. It was three parsa by three parsa. Betanyam, we learned in a brayso kashein nifnin, that when they went to the bathroom, ein nifnin lo lifneim v'lo litzidein el acharein. The only place they went was, they didn't go in front, they didn't go to the sides, they always went to the back. Rashi says over here, ein nifnin lo lifnein chutz lo anan sham yelech anan varon sham. They didn't want to go in front of the cloud because that's the direction they're traveling. Maybe the anan will go that way. They didn't know if the honor will go to the side. They always went outside of the cloud to the back. If they knew they weren't going to travel backwards. They went 3 parsos in order to go to the bathroom. Let's say they were people that lived in the front. They were traveling in the front of the encampment. And they were in tents. No different than huts. They were not established. Apparently, they considered the whole encampment to be Dalet Amos, which contradicts what we just said, what Rav Huna just said about the Yoshvei Tzrifin, that they have to measure from their house. So the Gemara answers to this. The Gemara says, Amar le Rava says, Digle midbar ka'amrit, you're asking a question from the encampment in the wilderness. Kevin d'chsib al pi Hashem yachanu ve'al pi Hashem yiso. Since it says they camped by the word of God and they traveled by the word of God, command d'kviya lehu dami. That already is a situation where they're considered established, because if God already is telling them where to camp, that's much different than somebody nowadays who's living in huts. Amar Rav Chinana bar Rav Kahana Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Chinana bar Rav Kahana says in the name of Rav Ashi, Im yesham shalosh chatzeros shel shnei batim. If in that area you have 3 courtyards with 2 houses, hukvu, that already is going to make it like an established area, even though it's really an area where you have huts. But since you also have some houses, that establishes the area as part of the city. Rashi says, Gimel chatzeros shel beis batim kivuin shel even o shel eitz. We're talking about houses that are permanent, like stone or wood. B'hachi chashivi ir, that would be considered part of the city. The kovas is cool, and that would be koveh, everyone is being part of the city. Uchritzanan l'kamon Rabbi Shimon Omer shalosh chatzeros shel beis batim. That follows Rabbi Shimon's opinion later on. So in that situation, it would actually extend the border of the city. Amar Rav Yudah Marav, Rav Yudah says in the name of Rav, Yoshvei Tzrifin v'holchim midbaros, those who dwell in huts and those who wander, nomads in the wilderness, chayein einon chayim, their lives are not lives, unashein uvenein einon shalahen, and their wives and their children are not their own. Tanya Namiyach, we have a brisa like this as well. Eliezer Ishbiria Omer, Eliezer Ishbiria says, Yoshvei Tzrifin ki Yoshvei Kvarim. Those who live in the huts are no different than those who live in the cemeteries. The Al Ben Oseim, who Omer, and what does it say about their daughters? Arur Shochev and Kol Behema. Cursed is the one who lies with an animal. My time, what's the reason for all of this? Why are we saying their wives and their children are not their own? Ula Amar Ula says, She'en lahen merchatzos. They had no bathhouses. So what would happen is the men would leave the area together to go to the bathhouses, which were far away, which would leave the women alone, and all kinds of adultery would happen. But Rabbi Yochanan says, very similar answer, but he says it has to do with tefillah in the mikvah. The women would have to travel far together to go to the mikvah, and so again, when they were on the road, there would be all kinds of adulterous situations. My beinayu, what's the difference between these two opinions? They seem very similar. Ika beinayu nara de samach levesa. The difference is, let's say there's a river that's near the person's house. So in that situation, that would count as a mikvah, and so the women would not have to travel. It wouldn't be an issue. But that would not be a place where people would use to bathe. It's not a bathhouse, so the men would still travel far. That would still be an issue. Amar Ravuna says, Kalir she'ein ba yerek. If you have a city without vegetables, ein Talmud Chacham rashoy lodor ba. Talmud Chacham is not permitted to live there. Rashi says, ein Talmud Chacham lafi shayerek tov l'maichol. The vegetables are good, they're healthy. V'nilkach bezol, and they're also cheap. V'yachol asak b'Torah. That allows the Talmud Chacham to be able to learn Torah. So the Gemara says, Lamemer Yerek Ma'aliyah, do you mean to say that Yerek is something that is good? It's beneficial, Vatanya, but we learned in a Brisa, Shlosha Marbin es Hazevel, there are three things that increase the amount that a person has to go to the bathroom. The Kofafin es Hakoma, they bend over those who are upright, they cause a person to have to bend over. V'nolan Echon Mechamish Meos Mimor Einav Shaladam, they also take away 1/500th of a person's vision, they damage a person's eyes. V'Elohen, and they are as follows, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Vav Amud Aleph.